Morning.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Odetta, for the warm introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. We are very happy to be here, me and my team. Let's talk e-commerce, let's talk marketplace. I mean, if you have followed the recent development or the development in the last couple of years in the e-commerce space, it's quite obvious that marketplaces basically have a certain share in that dynamics, and these share seems to be evolving in shaping that landscape throughout the globe. If you see, I mean, you know about the Alibabas and the eBays or the Amazons of this world, but there are also very relevant local players like Pigo here, for example, Lithuania, and others in local markets, which really drive this dynamics in the market, in the e-commerce world. And I mean, just looking at the numbers, basically underpins that development. If you look how much is spent on a yearly basis on marketplaces throughout the globe, that's a very big number with a lot of zeros. $3.2 trillion are spent on marketplaces, which is almost half of the total e-commerce spent currently, not fully. So there's still a higher share that is managed on pure online shops currently, but the trend is certainly going towards an overweight on marketplaces. If you look into the future estimates, by 2027, we are supposed to reach 60% of all transactions happening on marketplaces. So there's a clear trend and a clear development in that sector that marketplaces are the dominated factor in e-commerce. And there's must be a reason why players in the e-commerce landscape are really looking into these models and adapting marketplace models for themselves, be it that they launch their marketplace from scratch themselves, or they move to a marketplace model from an existing, very established online shop. And here are a couple of reasons for that. The key, for me personally, the number one reason certainly is the additional revenue streams you can generate with a marketplace. If you have your own online shop, there are limitations, but here obviously in a marketplace you have other options to generate additional revenue, not just with additional customers, but also leveraging the new kind of setup you have. From a cost and optimization perspective, you certainly have an approach that you can limit the risk you're facing yourself, because you are the owner of your shop, and if you move to a marketplace, you don't face the inventory cost and the management. Also, the financial risk is limited if you move to a marketplace model. Other than that, obviously, yes, you can expand your platform to a complete new customer base, which you might not have been able to approach, be it locally or internationally. And if you open it up to other players, other partners who serve your marketplace, obviously, that brings you also the option to increase the customer experience itself, but also the scalability you might want to achieve internationally when you grow. That's a lot of pros and a lot of advantages, obviously, for us, important to mention. However, there's complexity involved as well, right? So you cannot just do that from scratch. Everyone would do that. You need to manage and master the complexity attached. So a brief look at like the fundamental comparison: your own online shop, if you manage that, it's you are fully liable for everything that happens. You are taking care of the traffic. Obviously, you focus on the buyers. You want to have a lot of traffic. You want to engage buyers to spend more, to stay longer on your platform. And that's about it. Whatever comes in, you have to manage. Whatever goes out, you have to manage. And all the funds, anything that comes in, goes to your bank account, basically. That's it. So you are fully liable. And this is the base of a very simplified model the online shop. If you look on the marketplace side, obviously that unfolds. You don't just have the buyer side. You don't just want to attract the buyers. You need to manage your partners, your sellers, you want to bring on the platforms as well. And that obviously creates additional complexity which you haven't had before and which basically you need to master. Having a specific look on that from a payments perspective, this is what you know from a shop. You manage the payments which come in. You need to offer the most relevant payment methods to your customers. And this is the key focus to generate conversion. On a marketplace, that opens up a bit wider. You get the funds in. You're being paid on the platform, but ultimately, in most of the cases, you are not the one who is supposed to receive that money because the beneficiary, the owner of the funds, is usually the seller on your platform. So you need to manage these funds properly, and you can do that in certain ways to actually also reflect the needs on both ends of the buyers and the sellers on your platform. And on the third point, the high-level point is also the payout piece. You get the money in, you manage it, and you want to get it out based on the business model you have or the needs of your sellers. And you need to make sure that the players on your platform, which you bring onto your platform, they have to be trustworthy. You want to make sure you have a solid and trusted platform. So you need to validate them based on the regulatory rules in the market. So if you look a bit deeper, what are the challenges or the complexity in more detail? Obviously, it's not just the three high-level points. That's the main logic, the pay-in, the management of the funds, and the payouts. But there's a lot more nuances because pretty much every platform, every marketplace has a different kind of setup. So there's different workflows which have to be handled, or in the market, not everyone has the same kind of setup. There might be quite lean and straightforward flow. You get the money in, you hold it for some time, you pay it out locally, one currency. That's a very straightforward setup. And you might have an inventory which is very, very customized, so there is not much of different kind of products in one basket you have to manage, so it's very straightforward. On the other hand, there might be business models which are very, very broad. You have a very high inventory of thousands, hundred thousands of SKUs you need to manage, and the buyers will choose multiple SKUs, multiple products from different partners of your platform, so it ends up in a mixed shopping basket, which has to be managed from a payments perspective. And that's why there are different nuances which have to be reflected in terms of business model to make that process smooth. Yeah? On the other hand, as seen, you have the seller perspective. You want to make sure sellers have the chance to find your platform, and if they are there, obviously, and are interested, that you bring them on board smoothly. They want to have an easy experience to start selling. However, they need to be onboarded, they need to be verified based on the European regulations, anti-money laundering, etc. So you need to have a process which you don't want to invest too much time in to onboard these sellers. Cross-border is another topic. You basically might start locally, but to really scale and to look internationally, the marketplace model obviously is the much easier way to go to attract international buyers and sellers. So cross-border payments and transactions are also relevant to manage. Multi-currency setups, which you have to handle, and you might need the according providers to help you do that. Last but not least, as I mentioned already, regulatory requirements are also crucial in a marketplace setup. There is options that you basically buy your own or you create your own license, like a banking license, and you can operate as you like, continue to operate as a standard online shop. That is usually the most expensive and most rare occasion marketplaces do their setup. So usually you go for a payment provider who has the right infrastructure to support you with that. And the nuances and the different variations I mentioned here, they are pretty much relevant for all kinds of business models. But as I mentioned earlier, like every kind of platform out of our experience is different. So you cannot just put it into a drawer, pull it out, and apply it for everyone. You as the marketplace or our customers in that sense, everyone has kind of different needs. And this is also the approach we have to take in a very customized manner to actually meet these needs specifically to manage the payment flows for each, or the business model for each of the marketplace. You can set this up, look at this from a high level, from a kind of business sector perspective, C2C, B2C, B2B, etc. And there are different kinds of models and different kind of needs. If you look at C2C, Vinted, for example, is a very customer or end user focused platform, which has to manage buyers basically who become sellers on the one side and the other way around. So if you sell on Vinted your used clothes or baby shoes or whatever, in the next 2 weeks you can end up as a buyer because you need some stuff on the other hand. So what Vinted, for example, wants is to make sure that the environment they present, the platform they present to its customers, can be turned in any way so that the buyers become sellers and the other way around. So the payment and the infrastructure is purely based on wallets, which then exactly create that opportunity where the funds and the money you might receive as a buyer because you have sold your baby shoes, they can stay in your wallet and you can use that money later on in the next 2 weeks to buy stuff which you might need on that platform. So this is a very specific and very complex kind of setup which is relevant for the C2C kind of verticals and leveraged by platforms, as you can see. And then there's classic B2C kind of setups where you buy standard products from different sellers. You put multiple products in your basket. You pay, and the sellers who actually present these products will be paid their share accordingly. And another example, B2B is a completely different animal in that sense. There's different kind of needs in terms of payments on due dates, which have to be managed. There are long payment cycles, 30, 60, 90, or even more days. And then still the actual sellers on that platform, they might want their money right away. So all that kind of complexity shows that it's not just saying it's real. This has to be managed, and this is basically what MangoPay is doing and has been doing for the last 10 years, focusing exactly on the overall payment cycle of platforms and marketplaces, high level from the pay-in to the management of funds and to the payout, to make sure consumers get the payment methods they need. And if it's very specific, also giving the platform the flexibility to say, if we cannot offer what they need on a very specific local occasion maybe, then they are also allowed or flexible enough to bring in existing local providers or existing partners they have been working with for quite some time who might not be able to support marketplaces. So that's also the flexibility which is possible. And then the core is basically what happens once the money comes in, to hold the funds, to manage the funds based on an e-wallet infrastructure, and finally moving out the money based on the needs of the platform. If you want to have certain controls to say, okay, I want to keep the money in my system for a certain period of time to make sure it's a trusted kind of payment service, so the buyer can be sure the money is not going out unless he has actually checked the products, these kind of examples. And then at the end, pay it out based on the seller needs. They might need the money right away, instantly, or they can actually have different kind of needs. again, why is this, a few numbers, why is this important to actually manage the overall flow, and why it is crucial to have a very specific kind of payment setup to manage all these parts. There's obviously the pay inside I mentioned. There's a lot of friction happening still, which can be managed more smoothly. Transactions should not fail, so you have to have certainty that the conversion is actually there. The payment methods itself, you want to make sure you offer and you basically present the payment methods that are relevant for the consumers, that they actually continue and then don't drop off at the end of the buying cycle because they don't find their preferred payment method. And fraud, obviously, is also a key point, not just for online shops, but also specifically for platforms where not just the payment side is a key topic in terms of to prevent fraud and to build trust on your platform, but also to make sure all the players on your platform, including the sellers and the buyers, are checked. Account takeover is a word which comes into play for platforms. So you have to have certain and specific fraud prevention modules to actually make sure you have a trusted platform. And last but not least, you want to make sure the sellers which come to your platform, they have the best experience and they don't drop off, even though they're interested. That if you have a cumbersome onboarding process, you want to make sure they stay and get onboarded smoothly and start to transact as soon as they're on the platform. A bit more in detail in these three models, obviously MangoPay looks very specifically on all of these modules, or the pay in and the pay out is the core basically of a marketplace which you have to manage. You want to make sure the money comes into your system as smooth as possible. So as I mentioned, the payment methods are key. You don't want to have any failed transactions. You want to make sure everything is running smoothly. You want to have compliant transactions, so you have to ensure that the money flow is fully compliant with the regulation, that you as the platform don't touch the money. You stay in control, but you don't actually touch the funds because they belong to the seller. And in the end, you want to have flexibility, right? You want to make sure in the time you scale, things can change, providers can come up and leave. So you want to have the flexibility to add new features and or remove stuff as you go. And this flexibility is what MangoPay basically can provide. We are very sure and certain that we cannot do everything in every market. And that's the transparency we give to any customer and any prospect we work with to say, okay, here's what we can do. If you need more, as I mentioned, specifically in your local market, feel free to add your local providers. But from that part on, we can manage everything you need on the seller side and the payout side. So payout is the second fundamental piece, how you get the money out of the system, out of your system. Also dependent on the platform stage you have. So if you have just started, you want to focus on a local currency. It's the same currency, euro in, euro out. That's quite straightforward. But as you scale, you onboard new sellers internationally, you still have the pay in side, which might be euro only for the buyers, but the seller side can be much more complex with, I don't know, at least 10 countries of sellers. They might want their money in local currency, so the conversion and the management of local payouts comes into play, which you have to manage in between. And then obviously it's the needs of your seller base you want to comply with. Some want their money right away, so you need to have some kind of instant payout set up, and some are not that focused on cash flow, so you have longer times to actually pay out following the rules of your marketplace. And then the core, basically, pay in, pay out is the fundamentals. This is more really the core. As I mentioned earlier, the e-wallet infrastructure is the key enabler we provide that the marketplace actually gets the flexibility I mentioned to really hold the funds as as long as they want. So there's no time limit to actually hold the funds which come in. You as the marketplace or platform can decide how long you want to keep the money based on your rules. As I said, it can be trust related, it can be business model related, to keep these funds to a certain amount of time. And there's no time limit for us to keep these. And the key feature is that the e-wallets we create is basically the enabler of all the flexibility we have. You're not limited to the amount of e-wallets we create for you in the system. A step back, like why is it an e-wallet? Obviously the money, the real money that comes into the system will be transferred into e-money. And once that happens, every transaction is allocated to a wallet. And this is basically the key of what we do, be it the buyer or the seller or anyone in our system who is reflected, they get an e-wallet virtually allocated, and then the magic, so to say, happens. We move the funds between these wallets, and you can do that creatively as you want until the money is actually paid out of the system. And this is the core functionality, which then also empowers you to create very creative business models or even features like promotional campaigns, gift cards, etc. You can actually enable, because you as the platform will have your own wallet, which you can fund with your own funds, marketing funds, and whatever you want to do, I don't know, 10% campaigns or even special segmented campaigns to certain groups of buyers and sellers, the money will be automatically pulled from that wallet and allocated to the relevant transactions. Onboarding, as I mentioned, is a key piece to actually get traction, to get to more sellers on your platform, make that hassle-free and make it trusted. That obviously you want to make sure your platform is trusted, you want to have the right sellers on your platform, and also be compliant. So in summary, for us, from the experience we have, as I mentioned, we've been in the market for 10 years, focusing on the European continent and focusing on platforms and marketplaces solely. So this is our expertise. And looking at what we have discussed today, for us, the key three pieces you need to succeed from a payment perspective with us are really the flexibility of the infrastructure itself. So you might start small, but you have a business plan where you might want to end up in the future, which is okay, but you never know what really happens. So you want to have flexibility to scale, to adjust your payment setup as you expand, and to leverage some kind of modularity. This is key for us. We provide what you need. You can kind of pick and choose what is really relevant, but you're not stuck like with us end to end if you don't feel this is 100% fitting, especially in terms of the payment methods. That's something you are free to choose also from other providers, but we have the core functionality after that, from the money management to the payout, to really make you scale. The second and very valid point, going back to the start, of the key reasons why to adapt a marketplace model is the actual ability to stay in control. If you have managed an online shop before, you know that you like to be in control. Yes, there's liability with it, but you still want to have control what happens on your platform, and you want to monetize it, right? You want to make sure you have more options to monetize it. And this is the key piece as well, to make sure, yes, you get your commissions automatically. Every transaction that goes to your platform, you can decide per transaction, per seller, per buyer, whatever you want, the logic, what you want to charge for that transaction, and then it's automatically pulled to your wallet. You want to be able to manage the payment mix. So not every payment method you offered has the same price point, obviously. So you want to be smart in handling the payment costs, and then maybe really leverage that margin because you basically charge a flat fee to your sellers for payments. So you want to be smart in managing the payment methods to manage the cost base and maybe generate additional margin. That's key in terms of monetization, promotional campaigns, etc. I mentioned, and also from the seller perspective, manage the cash flow of their sellers, which is then relevant if you talk when does the money go out, when do they actually need the money, and you can actually also generate additional revenue if you segment your seller base to tell them, look, my premium sellers, they make so much money, they are not charged, but the long tail, I don't know, the standard seller base, I'm going to charge them if they want the money earlier, and then you can also add additional margin, additional revenue for you based on our system. And last but not least, key piece is always trust. Buyers have to trust your platform. The sellers you want to bring in, they have to trust it. So you have to be compliant and you have to have a solid partner, a licensed partner to build that trust, especially for payments in terms of anti-money laundering and also fraud prevention, which is a specific need for these platforms. And this is what we do. MangoPay, as I said, is focusing for all its existence for the last 10 years on modular payment infrastructures solely for these marketplaces and platforms. And we have been working, or we are working with very well-known brands who trust us and who basically grew with us. I mentioned Vinted earlier. There's other players like Chrono24 in different kind of verticals, Ticketmaster, Rakuten. So these are the players we support. And specifically for Vinted, obviously it's a very big brand, but they have started as a startup as well, and we managed to grow with them, just basically supporting the fact that we can help you grow your platform. Any questions? Oh, Odetta, please.
Yes, of course. Can we go to the next slide just to see your context maybe for everyone who wants to connect? Guido is here. His team is also here.
Yes.
I mean, Guido, thank you so much. You told us so many things, how, our brands should take a look into the payments, how indeed marketplaces are really going through a revolution. But we have so many marketplaces, yes, on one hand, but we also have multiple payment providers also and solutions. So what makes your solution so special, and what, makes you succeed in this market?
Thanks for the question. Is this on? Yeah, I mean, there are two things which differentiates us. Obviously, yes, there are different payment providers in the market, and this is not news that marketplaces, like, they have a specific need. However, we are distinctive in that sense that we've always been focusing purely on marketplaces and platforms. So this is our DNA. We don't do anything else. So we have a lot of expertise and know-how and focus on that section. So it's really what makes us distinct. Also in customizing the support effort, the support we give every prospect we work with. Because I mentioned every platform is different. You cannot just pull it out the drawer. Yeah. We treat every case differently and make sure the prospect gets exactly what they need, and we build the solution around the needs, basically.
That makes a lot of, takes a lot of effort of yours. Do you use AI to customize something? we had just another talk about AI in different stages.
We do internally, yeah.
Okay.
So, and the second, to finally answer the question, so this is the first point, that we focus on this piece, and the other point is the flexibility I mentioned, like the modularity we bring. There are a lot of providers who have an offer, but you have to take it end to end or you leave it, right? For us, you can take pieces and you can choose to add more other providers, which we don't have an issue with, because we know at some point we are not there yet, or we cannot provide that specific tool or feature. Then you are flexible as a platform to add this, obviously in alignment with us, and we are happy to work on that, to give you the full package you need, in case we cannot offer that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Guido, for your answers. And anyone who will have more questions, just contact Guido. He will answer everything, I hope. Yeah, so thank you so much. And now we have 5 minutes break and before we go to the next amazing speaker. Thank you.